All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Great to see all of you. I'm Ben Glebe. For those of you who don't know, which is probably all. I'm a stand-up comedian and TV host, and I'm a new member here at the Kin. And last week I was hanging out here, and I saw on the screen that they're going to be doing a entrepreneur talk with Caroline D'Amore, and I was like, not only am I a fan of Caroline D'Amore, she's a dear friend of mine. And so I mentioned that, and then Oliver said, would you like to host the talk? And I said, yes, I would. And so that's where we come to this moment. A couple of things about Caroline first before I let you say anything is Caroline is incredible. She's lived a very interesting life to this point, and no doubt it's getting more and more interesting. But perhaps what you're most interested in here, being that this is about startups and entrepreneurship, is that Caroline has created this incredible, fast-growing brand called Pizza Girl. And not only is it truly the tastiest pizza, and I've never in my life eaten pizza that you eat and you feel better after. I mean, you literally don't feel that horrible feeling you do after having 2 slices of normal pizza where you feel like you made a terrible life mistake. It's very light and somehow feels great. And because of that, I suppose, they are now in 2,500 supermarkets nationwide. And that's just one of 3 prongs of the business. They are selling out on their direct-to-consumer side of the business as soon as they get each new shipment of the Pizza Girl pizza ovens in, which I still need to get an oven. And what's that? You'll send me one. Thank you. I want to make sure I heard that. I didn't really hear it. I want to make sure that's officially spoken. They sell out within days of each new truckload. And her first raise was $300,000 and then raised $1.3 million. And they've been doing it all with a very small shoestring budget to try to make sure they keep equity in the company, which has made it hard. But in fact, that's for coffee for me. Thank you so much. Or matcha. But in fact, it has made it exciting and challenging in a way we're going to delve into shortly. And they're about to open their second brick and mortar store as well, coming in West Hollywood very shortly. The first one is in Venice here, which just opened very recently. And by summer, planning a third brick and mortar as well. And with plans of growing all over the world with small pizza windows in high-trafficked areas. It's a really cool concept. It's an amazing pizza. So please welcome everybody, Caroline D'Amore.
Hi, Ben. Hi, guys. This is so awesome and cozy, and I feel like I'm in my living room because I often just talk to the audience that is not there in my living room.
I know. I came over once, and I was like, what's happening? And I left quickly because it was so weird.
Yeah, it's strange.
So before we dive into your business, just tell a little bit. Can you just kind of summarize for us, like, where do you come from? What's your life before Pizza Girl? And then we'll talk about the transition into your business.
Yes. So I often say, like, my story started out in tragedy, but it really has turned into triumph. And I use these things that have happened to me even today in my business. So everything I've learned when I was younger, I used to be like, poor me, why is the world against me? And now I realize that was all necessary, and these were all building blocks and tools and lessons that I now use to be me. And being me is very unique. There's not a bunch of me, and I pour all of that into my business. So it started out with the death of my mother. I was 5 years old, and I was lied to about how she died, actually, and I didn't find out till I was much older. And when I was a kid, I had a single dad. We didn't have, nannies, poor us, right? But we did have to go to all the catering jobs with my dad, and he would put us in these horribly embarrassing shirts that said Pizza Kid. And I would literally be on the set of like 90210, like feeding Jason Priestley and like horrified that like this is how we were meeting. And I really did get my work ethic by starting to have to work at a very young age. And I do believe that is something missing in the youth of like current right now. I watch even my own daughter and I'm like, no, we have to get her out there and she has to start working and doing things and achieving things, because being in the service industry as a kid has absolutely molded my work ethic today.
How old's your daughter?
She's turning 10.
Okay, it's too young to start working, just for the record.
No, it is not.
It's not? Okay, you were at 10, you were
See?
already
Listen to
helping
her.
your dad's pizza places?
Without a doubt.
So her dad created D'Amore's Pizza,
Yeah.
which is a staple in LA.
Which in the 90s was super popular. You know, good on my dad that he was able to, you know, do this while raising 4 little girls all by himself. Mind you, life became too difficult at times, and my sisters and I were pretty much left to fend for ourselves a lot of the time, food-wise and just like with activities. Like we were really truly taking care of ourselves for quite some time there. He did the best he could. But again, it also, now I look back, it taught me how to take care of myself.
So you were wearing these Pizza Kid shirts,
Yep.
and you were kind of, you know, pushed into working early, which taught you work ethic. But I'm sure as a kid you didn't love it,
No.
and you then rebelled against it. So
Big time.
Summarize for us quickly the rebellious years.
Okay, this is the fun part. I dropped out of high school.
Then not quickly, maybe.
Okay, I'll do it quickly. Ish. I dropped out of high school. I didn't have, you know, the parenting to like, I also am severely dyslexic. I have really bad ADD. So I had a really hard time in school. I was really terrible at math. The only thing I was good at was writing, like writing classes and a little bit of history. I was pretty good at when I cared about something. I was really good at it. But I was really falling behind. I didn't have the support, and it was really embarrassing. And I was just ready to get the heck out of there and start my life. I used to stare at like the gates of my school playground and just fantasize jumping over when no one was looking. And one day I basically did that. My last completed grade is 9th grade. I walked into my second week of all the eyes just went. I walked into my second week of 10th grade, and I was like, this just isn't for me. I did a UE. So when my mom passed away, she was a flight attendant for Delta, and at the time you get free flights, and I knew that. And I got on a plane, and I just went to New York. And I stayed on my older sister's friend's couch. I got a modeling contract, I was like a low budget model for a while there. And, but it was enough for me to like, you know, sustain myself, sent home some teen Vogues, and dad knew I was alive. Definitely got into a lot of trouble. There was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of partying, and there was a lot of scary close calls. I then decided, well, now what can I do to make money and continue this party lifestyle? Let's become a DJ. So all these things that I did.
Way to get back on track.
Right? All these things I did were mildly successful because I do have that like crazy ADD entrepreneurial, like mental, psychotic brain that whatever I do, I'm going to do with all my might.
And you were DJing like Paris Hilton's birthday parties and...
Oh, I became a really big DJ. I was like one of the main female DJs of like the 2000s before anybody thought it was cool to DJ. And I was doing house music. I had 2 record deals all of a sudden with Sony in Japan. I was literally big in Japan. I had like a huge poster at not Empire Records. That was a movie. What was it? Tower Records. Yeah, and like I was going back and forth to Tokyo. I did a music video in Japan. It was like a J-pop video, and I like looked all crazy. It was a horrible song. And then I started producing music with a lot of house DJs, and I really did have this going for a while. I had a record deal with Universal. I had a really shitty movie come out called Sorority Row. That was, however, my only college experience.
And you're with Carrie Fisher in that movie.
I was. And
Hollywood royalty.
Yeah, that was really cool, getting to work with her. But, you know, all these things, like I said, were mildly successful, but nothing ever clicked to the audiences or to the customer base, because the truth is I wasn't being me. I was running from me. Every turn, I was like, nope, that's me. I'm out of here, you know? And I would run from myself. And my biggest thing that I love to tell people now is figure out who you are. That is what you need to do as a young person at any age. Figure out who you are, because there's only one of you. And you guys, there's 1,000 pizza places out there, right? There's 1,000 pasta sauce places. What is different and unique about mine is that it's me. It represents me. And nothing clicked until the day I said, and actually this is what happened. I was at my very last DJ gig, and my friends were there, and I was at Sundance, and it was a huge show, big crowd. I thought it was super cool. I had this shot glass, and I did the shot, and then I slammed the glass on the table, and I cut my hand open on stage. And my friend comes running out. She's wrapping my hand. I'm like, this is so punk rock. Like, this is epic. I'm like literally like losing blood, but I'm still headbanging. By the way, my neck is permanently damaged from the headbanging. Same with my ears. I'm going deaf. But I looked out, and there was somebody holding a sign, and it said, "We love you, Pizza Girl." And I'm getting the chills right now, actually, as I say it, because I'm like, how the fuck did they find me? Like, I had been hiding in this like fake socialite body for so long. Like, how did they know this about me? And it like shook me. And then I remember having a very bad, close call. I ended up in the hospital.
From an overdose
Overdose of drugs. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, but I mentioned that also because it's like in every way the world is telling you, like, you're trying to run from yourself, and giving you every lesson, like, don't be doing this anymore. Cutting your hand, too many drugs.
Yeah.
So what was the final wake-up call?
I literally should have been arrested. I mean, there was a time that
That's why we brought you here today.
could I still get arrested if I tell stories from that time in my life? Maybe we'll just end it here. But no, I mean, there was definitely a major wake-up call. I woke up in the hospital with people literally looking at me like, why are you trying to kill yourself? And I was like, I'm not. Like, I just did too much. Like, I was like a fun party girl, not like a, somber party girl. And then I really needed this life change. I was like, what am I going to do now? I just kept thinking about that person who called me the pizza girl. And I was like, fine. Everywhere I went, they were like, oh, where's the pizza at, pizza girl? And I was like, you're going to call me the pizza girl. I'm going to be the fucking pizza girl. And then I kid you not, you guys, the day I accepted that I am just the pizza girl is the day my whole life came together. Everything fell into place. How did I get the pizza girl trademark? How did I get the pizza girl Instagram at pizza girl? How did I get the Pizza Girl website? Like, no one ever thought Pizza Girl was a great name before? No, but it was the universe waiting for me to wake the F up. Sorry, I cuss so much. My daughter hates it. And accept who I am. And it was like waiting for me to get there. And the moment I did, everybody believed it. How weird is that? They were like, oh yeah, I mean, you grew up in this. Like, there's pictures of you as a kid on the set of like Everybody Loves Raymond, like feeding him pizza. Like, of course you know pizza. Of course I'm gonna buy your sauce. I walked, you know how I got my first supermarket? I walked into Erewhon on Beverly, and I said, who do I gotta talk to? This is the best sauce in town. I did get that from my dad. Thank you, Dad. This Italian like confidence. And they were like, well, that's not how you do this. And I was like, well, this is how I'm doing this. I sat in the office upstairs. Luckily, it was still the office, and I'll never forget her name, Vicky Osana. She was the buyer. And she laughed. Everybody else is there, and they're all like sophisticated, and they have their, their books and their, stories to tell. And I'm just there with this jar of sauce with a label half taped on. And I'm like, this is the best thing in town. But because I believed it so much, not only, you guys, she took a spoon out of her desk. She took one bite. And she said, you got all the Erewhons. And I was like, oh, shit, now I got to make
That was your
sauce.
first market was Erewhon?
First market was Erewhon.
Wow, ultimate Venice cred. That is incredible.
Thank you.
Wait, but pull it back for a second because that's a huge step. But tell us from the realization that you're going to, the classic refusal of the call, and then you decided to accept it and go on the real journey that was going to be your life. Where did it go from then? Like, what was the initial concept? Where did Pizza Girl come from? What was the initial plan? Did you plan to do pizza windows? Did you plan to do at-home ovens?
Yeah.
What was the concept? How'd you run with what? And then how'd you decide to first run with it? What were your first steps?
Absolutely. I wish I was that thought out. That's what you're supposed to be, right? That wasn't my game plan. So I had a little hand in my ex-husband and I, we took over one of my dad's pizza shops for a while there. And I had a very difficult divorce. I lost everything, including my restaurant with my name on it, my family name on it. And it was one of the hardest things I had ever gone through because while I was running from the Pizza Girl name, losing it in that way made me realize how much it meant to me and how hard that was. And I wasn't ready to go back into the brick and mortar pizza space after that. So I was like, but what can I do with my Pizza Girl name and do something that my dad should have done, but was, too honestly arrogant to listen to me, that I had any, a young girl in an Italian family is not really taken very seriously. Let's be real. They're like, okay, go back to dancing on tables, like you don't know anything about the industry. So Pizza Girl really started as a big fuck you to everybody in my family, to the situation in my divorce. And at first it started out of spite. I'm not going to lie. I was like, you don't believe me? Watch me. So I was like, I'm going to start with jars of sauce because I know how to make really great sauce. I found that there was nothing good on the shelves. They were all loaded with added sugars, really bad oils. They were hiding shit in the labels. It was appalling. And when I opened one, I used to have my grandmother's gravy and you use it on everything and it was fantastic. And I was like, why is this so bad? And then all of a sudden I'm a single mom and I need something quick and I can't sit there like a grandma all day long sauteing onions, So I was like, we need to fix this. And also, everything on the shelves is all male dominated, okay? It's Rayo's, Newman's, Carbone. Like, where is the mom that actually cares about the ingredients and the flavor and, not having to, divvy it up every time, make it better. And I was just like, there's a space for a female voice in the Italian food world. And everybody thought I was insane, including my very first sit down with an investor who was actually a woman.
And was this after the Erewhon? Did you go into Erewhon first before you even had investors?
Oh, yeah. Way before.
You got into all the Erewhons before even having officially really a company.
I started my company on $5,000 from a DJ job.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I got Erewhon, I was like, oh shit, now I got to make sauce. What am I going to do? And I found this tiny little mom and pop shop. Their names were Butch and Burma. They're like in their 80s now. And it was me and them with like hairnets on, sitting up in Santa Paula, jarring all these jars, hand jarring them ourselves. Like, it was really intense.
So then you sat down with your first investor. What was the prep for that, and how did that meeting go?
So I had a girlfriend help me make my investor deck. These are the things that I bring to the table. I had never made an investor deck. I didn't even graduate high school. So this was very like, but it's all about the confidence and like believing in yourself, because I swear to God, when you believe in yourself, the person next to you believes in you. There's no way that they cannot. You believe in you. You know what I mean? So I made this investor deck. I started getting meetings. I just reached out to people that I knew, and I was like, who can I talk to? Oh, this, and you start to go reach out to people. And I remember sitting with this woman, and I was like, well, she's a woman. She's going to get it. And this was this was before the Me Too movement. Yeah, it was like around like way before that. And I feel like women really felt like they needed to be men in order to be taken seriously. And she says to me, she says, well, I would never invest in a company with the name girl in it. And it really upset me. I was like, she was like, it's like basically degrading or something. And I was like, what do you mean? Girls are fucking awesome. Like, why are we saying girls are not good enough? And we're telling little girls that like, that you're not good enough. Like, no. I said, not only is it going to be called Pizza Girl, but everything's going to be fucking pink. And that's what I did. And then I walked out. And then the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting, and I got a lot of no's, but I just don't take no for an answer. And then a neighbor who had heard my story called her friends, and these were two investors from Australia. They had just sold a makeup company, and they had heard I had something cool going on. They were actually really bored, trapped in their hotel room in Australia during COVID. And they were like calling me just to like chat and kind of basically tell me no, because my investor deck was ridiculous. It said like, I need $1 million and, I'm worth all this even though I have 0 sales. And they literally called me, you guys, to say no. And this is their favorite joke they love to tell people now. By the end of the call, it was a yes. By the end of the call. And they laugh about it all the time. And they're like, what the fuck did we do? But it was because I believed in myself so much that they ended up believing in me.
So what was the vision that you sold on?
I sold them on pasta sauce is better than all the rest. And that's literally impossible because it's such a saturated market. Everybody wants to spend $2 on a jar of sauce, not $9.99. But then I reframed the message. Instead, you get a $9.99 jar of sauce, you get some noodles and maybe a meat, and you're feeding a family of 4 for $15. And you're also feeding them organically, you're feeding them healthier. But now it's like, how do we get that message out? So they were really good at messaging. I was really good at carrying the message, and I was really good at the product. Like, I do have hands down the best sauce you will ever taste out of a jar. And I knew that. And then I also was dedicated to doing the hard work. But damn, while all my friends were vacationing, I am standing in supermarkets giving out samples for the next 4 years, driving across country in a van that says Pizza Girl on it. And now that I'm divorced, I have my child 50% of the time. So when I didn't have her, I'm on the road, standing in supermarkets, freezing my ass off, giving out samples for 4 years, because little did I know how expensive it is and impossible it is to stay on the shelves of supermarkets if you are not turning over numbers. So every time I got bad news, I just freaked out and went in and tried to solve it.
Went there physically.
Yeah.
So tell us about building your team, and how big is your team?
Now the team is bigger. I've recently forced my husband to join the team. But I have Rebecca Nairn, my investors. I have, we have a warehouse in Thousand Oaks. We have, we have our factory where we produce things. But it's outsourced. Like I said, we keep things very tight, very small. Still, we're doing all of it with a very small team, but we have, social media people, we have a publicity team, we have, it's really like the 4 of us. I just hired an incredible manager for the brick and mortars and the catering. And, it's really not a big team. And
that's small for such a big reach already. And going to be a third brick and mortar, this amazing direct-to-consumer business, this business in so many supermarkets, and you can keep it that lean. By the way, at the end, we're going to open it up for questions too, so please, if you have any, keep them in mind. Tell us about one of your biggest pain points as you were building the brand. What was one of the most difficult hurdles to overcome?
I mean, everything was a hurdle in the beginning. Every day.
Your new podcast is all about one of the hurdles, which, by the way, it's called Once Upon a Con. And it is currently the 11th true crime podcast in the world, and just hit the 47th
I believe
or 37th.
So, as of yesterday.
47th podcast of all podcasts on Earth, out of millions of podcasts. So tell us about pain point. It doesn't have to be that one, but we might want to touch on that one too.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, when you're, I don't want to say a girl, but when you're new and bright-eyed and excited, you want to believe people when they say that they want to invest in your company. So one of my biggest hurdles is the craziest thing of all time. And I feel like if I can get through that shit, there's nothing that I can't do. This guy who lived in my building posed as a potential investor for Pizza Girl while I'm taking meetings for investors. He then says he wants to invest $2 million. He gets me on the phone with the CEO of Whole Foods, or so I thought. He actually had someone impersonate the CEO of Whole Foods. Myself and my partners flew to the to the headquarters of Whole Foods in Texas for a meeting that did not exist. We ended up uncovering that this is a 2-time convicted con artist. He's been doing this for decades, upwards over to 100 people for over like $20 million.
Including his own grandmother.
Including his own grandmother, his own wife, who is on my podcast as well. Here's the great part, though. He messed with the wrong bitch finally. So he messed with me hardcore, almost took my entire company down, dismantled the whole thing. And
how did he get access to anything if he was going to be investing? How was he getting money out?
So we started taking meetings. He was posing as as a mentor. I was actually going through text messages yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "You're the best mentor," and I'm like, So sad. But anyway, I was it's very rare that people are very vocal about being conned because they feel stupid or they feel like, oh my God. But this has literally happened to so many really intelligent people. This is literally the man's career. He's been doing this since before I was born. Like I didn't stand a chance, right? So I am also not one of those people that's very scared to speak up. I don't know if anybody knows that about me, but I'll say what I'm feeling when I'm feeling it. And I definitely, I remember just sitting up in bed one night hearing that he was at all these fabulous places, my favorite restaurant, Craig's and all this. And he said to me, he's like, they're never going to catch me. And I was like, okay. So I did a post on Instagram. I had stayed up all night. I said what had happened. Actually, prior to that, I went undercover. And I realized that when you're in Texas, you can legally record people. So I got all of this crazy recordings of him admitting all of his crimes. I ended up working with the DA, did a huge press conference.
But how did he get access? Like, what even was the con if he was offering to invest?
It's so complicated.
Just give us like the basic nugget. How was he supposed to get access to anything if he was supposed to be just giving money, not taking money?
He worked on it for 6 months. It was really intense. I thought he was like, he came to my daughter's birthday, and this is what he does. He went to this other guy's, brother's funeral. Like he pretends to be your best friend. But listen to the podcast. It's anywhere you can get your podcast. It's called Once Upon a Con. You'll learn a lot about me, but you'll also learn that he's now sitting in jail. And like I said, like
he messed with the wrong bitch, and now he's everybody else's bitch. So that works out pretty good.
No, it's just I won't back down. No, I won't back down. I just won't. And especially if you're going to mess with me and my family and all these other families. And we ended up having all these other people come on the podcast that I ended up finding and having to be the one to tell them that they were being conned. And it was really difficult. But it's a really crazy story. And to overcome that and to still have my company together and growing on a shoestring budget is like that just shows that anybody can do it under any circumstance. It's all in here. It's all in here. And you need to change your mind about whatever situation you are in. In that moment, I could have said, that's it, I'm done. Like, after all this, after everything, do you know how many huge blunders we had? So I was on the Gordon Ramsay show. I don't know if anybody knows that about me, but I was recently on Food Stars, which is an entrepreneurial meets food industry show of his. And the day the season finale airs, my Shopify is going off like ding, 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 like all these orders. We couldn't even believe it. I had all my friends in a warehouse that my friend lent me packing boxes. My new boyfriend, that's now my husband, that was like one of our first dates. He's like, what the hell did I get myself into?
So romantic. That's beautiful.
So romantic. But get this. We get all these displays all over all the supermarkets in anticipation of this big grand finale. They say yes. We don't even have to pay for them. We walk in, we get calls. All of our labels are falling off, every single jar. Huge displays, labels all over the floor. It was the most embarrassing, heartbreaking, you guys, I walked in there with tape. I was crying and trying to tape them on, talking to all the managers, can you tape these on? If you see a jar, a label falling off. Turns out we also got scammed by our co-packer. I mean, there is just problem after problem after problem, and you can either let it take you down or you can let it make you stronger, and you can use it to your advantage. You can put it in your pack of tools that you now can whip out at any time. I don't let anybody mess with me anymore, and it's because it's happened to me, and I used it to get smarter.
When the labels fell off, how did you convince those stores to not drop your product?
It was so hard.
They were probably they were probably shaking in their faith in your brand at that point.
Yeah, sure, but I was also on the shelves before COVID and then lost all my shelf space during COVID. And you know what I realized? When you have a really good personal relationship with these people and it's not just business. So I personally sat there and I wrote emails to each individual. I made personal calls. I personally went in and stopped into each store. And I feel like a lot of people lose that connection because they're like, oh, I'm so corporate. Oh, well, you're about to go out of business. You know what I mean? Like, I remember standing in Erewhon giving out samples, and this girl walks over to me and she goes, oh, this is cute. I used to do this with my brand. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You must be really, really successful if you don't have to stand here and do this anymore. And she was like, well, no. I mean, if I don't raise money, we're going to be out of business. And I go, what are you doing then? Like, it was one of those like almond milky type things. And I was like, well, what did you spending all the money on? She's like, babe, I got bills. I got an office. I got, all these, billboards. I go, who said you could afford those things yet? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, this is insane. She is literally out of business now. And I'm like, where do people get off? Like thinking that their company is just going to fly and you're just going to keep getting people to pour money into it without doing the grind and the hard work. It's like, it's wild to me. I don't get it. Like, yeah.
So how do you decide where to allocate your resources? How do you decide how fast to grow? Because some people might think you're growing too fast, like you're doing too many verticals at once and expanding so fast with such a small team. Where do you make that decision from?
No, for sure. I definitely have like the ADD of it all, and I want to go fast, and I want to, I want to get there. But I think I have really good business partners that keep me in check, which sometimes I cannot stand. But it's true. Like, you need to surround yourself with people that are good at the things you're not good at. And that is for sure. I need people to remind me. The other day we just got into a fight because I wanted these new shirts for the new launch. And it's like, really? You're going to spend $6,000 on these new shirts when we need the money for this, and it's this or this. And it's like, we already have all these amazing shirts, So it's like, okay, you're right. So it's very important to surround yourself with people you trust and people that are good at things, like the opposite of what you're good at. Like, for me, like, I don't need another person to be a creative or to be, coming up with recipes. I don't. Like, that would be annoying. So what I need is somebody who can do the, financial forecasts and help me put together the deck for the investors. And you know what I'm saying? So really figure out what you're good at. Don't try to be everything to everyone all the time, because you need to excel in what you're good at. And I watched my dad struggle because he never got out of the restaurant to focus on the restaurant. He thought, you're not working hard enough if you're not in there open to close yourself. The concept of getting out and hiring people and focusing on the big picture was just like, insane. So I think it's really important to understand your weaknesses. That is a strength.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah, I have a new friend who has this successful burgeoning chain of like bar method gyms in Boston. And the business, she said, only really started to take off next level when she moved to LA out of Boston, because for the first time she's not able to micromanage her team, so they're forced to kind of figure it out on their own. And by the time she wakes up on East Coast time, it's already half the day, and they've already figured out the issues they would have been coming to her for.
Want to know what's really funny? My new manager, Carla, who's incredible, and I could not do any of this brick and mortar stuff without her. She literally said to me, like, I have an issue with all of your micromanaging.
Huh.
And I was like, okay. And I just like walked out and let her deal with it. Normally, like, that would be very difficult for me, but I'm working on myself. But it's true. I when you love your brand, you're like, this isn't it, and there's nothing worse than that. I have the same issue too. I have the same, and sometimes you get forced into it, like businesses that I've started or shows that I've created, and I'm like trying to showrun over the showrunner, and then I always want to be the head writer. And then just one time recently for I created a thing called Telethon for America, and I was so inundated down to the wire that I had to just bring on a co-head writer. Even that was so hard for me. And I was able for the first time to like let go and let him make decisions on certain things in the script. And it was so much better for it. And I was able to be better on camera and rest. It's like you cannot do it all yourself. You cannot. Yeah, and the people that do, don't. They try to do it, and then it stays small, or then you.
And then people don't like working with you. You become too frustrating. Like, it's really hard, those moments. I fully relate to what you said there, but you have to learn to trust other people's brilliance and what they do as well.
Yeah.
That's why you hired them.
That's why you hired them. Literally.
For sure.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to discuss before we open it up is, you do another thing that I think is very rare and risky within entrepreneurship is you're a very powerful and outspoken activist for the Jewish people, as am I. That's really how we bonded mostly over the course of this last year and a half of a very strange time in the world. Without getting too into politics or into it at all, really, why did you decide to speak out, and how do you balance that with the fact that it's going to alienate people? For a brand, for a national brand, you don't want controversy and you want to be able to appeal to everybody. You lose people when you do that. How did you decide that, and why?
Well, first of all, there's a ton of people in the world, right?
True.
And also, I think it's really important for me anyway to be true to my heart. And I've always been outspoken since, I started walking in the AIDS walks in honor of my mom, because I would walk in these walks. It was a disease that had a big stigma around it. We would walk alongside, a lot of the gay community, and I saw hate for the first time in my life. I saw people standing on the sidelines with signs that said, like, you're going to go to hell, and even their children brought them out to hate everybody too. And I was just like, I was shook. I mean, I remember the only two subjects that I really paid attention to in school was learning about slavery and learning about a little girl named Anne Frank. And I remember being up all night being like, what would I have done if I was alive back then? Like, what would I have done? And I got emotional and I cry over these things. And like, when I see things, I always speak up. And my sister is gay. We would all walk. Like, I've walked for every group, that I could, stood up for everybody that I could. And when I saw this happening to the Jewish community, I was just like, no, like kids in colleges and people being tormented and all of that. No. So I speak up when I see injustices, no matter where they are, and no matter who they are happening to. And it's just really important to me. And I've figured out how to kind of like incorporate it into who I am, where it's not like overpowering, but it also is me. You know what I mean? So
but do your investors tell you, maybe please tone this down? Do any supermarkets ever say, we've gotten complaints about this? Or
what's interesting is right after October 7th, when my post went viral, my investors were really scared. They sat me down. But ultimately they were like, you do it from a place of love. It's very different than coming from like a, political bias or like a, this or that. It's like, it worked out for me because I do it from a place of love. I do it from like a human place. Like this specific thing is horrific. Don't, like, oh my God, like I would never do, like stuff like that. It's never like biased and one-sided or, it's really like, I'm just always going to stand up for what I believe in, and that's who I am, and that's part of my brand. So if you don't like it, deuces. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just who I am,
Have you lost any business over it? Or like you said, there's a lot of people in the world, and it actually maybe has been in the end, after some turmoil, a boon to your brand or your business?
It's actually quite interesting. I actually like had some really powerful people reach out to me and say things and tell me kind of how it works. Like, there are a lot of people in the world, and there's a lot of people that aren't concerned about these things. They just want the best pizza. You know what I mean? Like, and that's cool, So I think that no matter what, as long as you lead with love, and if the few friends that I lost over speaking out in support of the Jewish community, like, were they really friends anyway? Because they didn't want to hear my side. They just kind of blocked me and, all of that. So it wasn't something that I felt like a big loss about. It was more like here's what I say. Like, you only have so much bandwidth. You only have so much time. And where are you going to give your time and your energy? And for me, it was like, people are like, well, how do you deal with like hate and this and that? I don't, because when you focus all your energy on the love, and there's a lot of love, like when you support somebody who's struggling, when a mom reaches out to you because they're scared or they're taking their mezuzah down, or they're like scared for their kid to go to school because, they wear a kippah or like a Jewish star, like, and you're just like, oh my God, and you support them, like, you give all your attention to the love. You don't have time for the bullshit. So I don't even feel it, to be honest.
You're not Jewish, by the way.
No, I'm not.
You just, like you said, defend people where you see injustice.
Yeah.
I also, based on what you just said, need to stop having DM conversations with people that hate me. That's probably a good piece of advice.
Yes. Stop doing it. Don't waste your time. There's
That's
a lot of people out there that are going to love you.
But I think that message also ties into your greater message this whole time about being yourself. And the more you lean into authentically being yourself, the more that works out for you.
Yes.
Because, what better way to prove that point and to build that strength even more so than really sticking to your guns, even when it's very difficult.
Totally.
Has anybody done the story yet titled From Party Girl to Pizza Girl?
You just stole my book title.
Really?
Are you joking?
No, I just popped in my head.
I literally just signed with a book agent, and my book is called From Party Girl to Pizza Girl.
Really?
Yep.
Great.
So watch it, Ben.
Well, that's also the name of my new book, From Party Girl to Pizza Girl. The story I am not qualified to tell, unauthorized biography. A round of applause, please, for the amazing Caroline D'Amore. Thank you, love.
And another one for Ben Glebe because he made this all more exciting and fun. Thank you.
I love you.
Love you too.